Thank you all for being here. First, before we talk about the subject at hand, I'd like to have a moment of silence for police officer Mulkeen. As you know, he was killed early this morning in the line of duty, serving New Yorkers bravely and proudly. This is a very tough job. Every police officer's spouse dreads the call that he or she might get saying, your spouse has been injured, your spouse has been killed. And it happens all too often. So let's have a moment of silence for Officer Mulkeen. Thank you. What is that noise? Someone cooking something? No. Okay. So now we're here today announcing a challenge to President Trump to govern. The best way to do this, to prove the ability to govern, begins at let me say that again. And the best way President Trump can prove that he still can govern is universal background checks. That's where governing begins. Despite the ongoing impeachment inquiry into the president's actions on the Ukraine, I am here today to state that Congress and the White House should still move forward on universal background checks. So what's standing in the way? Well, unfortunately, this past Friday, President Trump met in the Oval Office with Wayne LaPierre, Chief Executive of the National Rifle Association, to discuss the ongoing push for legislation to address the issue of gun violence. It was widely reported that during the meeting, the NRA head sought to halt any progress. Wayne LaPierre told President Trump, stop the games. How dare he? And why would Trump take that from Wayne LaPierre? President Trump must do whatever it takes to resist the clouded comfort he craves from the likes of Wayne LaPierre and the NRA, because it will lead to inaction on one of the biggest issues facing the American public and that American people want addressed: universal gun background checks. The NRA's lavish spending, new evidence of even stronger ties to Russia, and multiple investigations should be of no comfort to this president. If President Trump wants to prove to the American people that he still can govern, that he's not consumed, he can govern during this inquiry, and Senate will cooperate. So I challenge President Trump to do just that, to govern. And the best way is by putting the #1 item that was being discussed and debated in the Senate before the impeachment inquiry began, and that is the Universal Background Check Bill, H.R. 8, that passed the House with a bipartisan vote. Allowing the NRA or other nefarious interests to call the shots amid this impeachment inquiry will only backfire on the White House, and the American people will be the worse off for it. Congress can still move on major issues while the House impeachment inquiry advances, and it must. And we are here to say that we do want to move forward on issues like guns, like the high price of prescription drugs, like providing good health care to people, kinds of things that we can get done. So I would go so far as to say, for this president to get an admonishment of this kind from the NRA, no less, sets the stage for dangerous inaction on the issue of gun safety, and that is no way to govern. Amidst the impeachment inquiry, the gears of government can still move. Anyone who suggests otherwise is advancing a false narrative. In fact, the best example of governing for this president to seize on amidst the House impeachment inquiry would be to pass the Universal Background Check Bill, which has been sitting in the doorstep of the Senate for well over 200 days. 90% of Americans support it, 80% of gun owners support it, 80% of Republicans support it. We all know that the gun lobby has for too long opposed common sense safety reforms. Even the most obvious, non-controversial reforms, like closing the loopholes in our background check system. 14,000 people have died as a result of gun violence since the House passed H.R. 8 over 200 days ago in February. How much higher must these numbers go? The bottom line, thoughts and prayers don't cut it, only action will. And for this president to take cover amidst this inquiry because he needs the NRA, well, that's something the American people won't stand for. They want their government to work, and an impeachment inquiry allows for the government to still do its job of passing laws. I'll take your questions first on this subject.
Have you spoken with President Trump since you heard Speaker Pelosi's call on September 15th about this issue?
No, but numerous senators, a good number of Democrats, have been at the White House still trying to work something out.
Are there any signs of progress on that?
Well, the Senators Blumenthal and Murphy, Coons, and Manchin, one day they get progress, one day it's a step back. It's back and forth, back and forth. But with the impeachment inquiry, I think the president has an obligation almost, and certainly an imperative, to show people that he can govern, and this is the best way. Yes?
What about Mitch McConnell? Have you spoken to him about this?
Mitch McConnell has said repeatedly he'll do what the president wants. He won't do anything without the president's imprimatur, but he'll put it on the floor if the president says yes. So it's all up to President Trump. Mitch McConnell's playing a bad role here. My view is he should put it on the floor regardless of what President Trump says, but that's not going to happen. Other questions? Okay.
Are there any signs the president's relationship with the NRA has changed at all?
Well, the worry is, since Wayne LaPierre almost, he was sort of admonishing the president, and the worry is that the president, with this impeachment inquiry, will think that he ought to embrace Wayne LaPierre even further. But nothing could be further from the truth, because Wayne LaPierre and the NRA are becoming decidedly less and less popular, and with Russia swirling in the air, and the allegations that the NRA and Russia are in some kind of cahoots, makes them even less a formidable political force.
How do you think him not taking any action on any legislative affairs will hurt him?
Well, I think the American people, the polls are showing, support an inquiry into impeachment, but at the same time support Congress doing other things, and guns would be at the top of the list of most American voters, the vast majority of them.
He's already tweeting out saying, already calling Democrats do-nothing Democrats.
Well,
saying that, with this impeachment inquiry, you guys are so with this that you can't legislate.
We are ready to act, and act now. That's why I'm here today, to answer that tweet.
So in that vein, considering that on May 22nd, he stormed out of a meeting with you and Speaker Pelosi, saying he wouldn't work with you as long as the inquiries were ongoing.
Well,
what makes you think that now?
That's not how a president ought to act. He ought to act like a grown-up. Okay? Thank you, everybody.